Before we get started, click the subscribe button to stay up to date with all our future videos. On July 1947, the world stood still under a bruised sky of orange and violet. Above the bustling streets of New York, a massive V-shaped object left an indelible scar across the heavens. For over a minute, it hung silently before gliding away, leaving behind a trail of silver light and puzzled onlookers. This marked the first time an unidentified flying object had been witnessed over the mainland United States.
Ho, ho, ho!
America's heartland was shaken. Was this a visitor from another world? An advanced experimental aircraft? Or something else entirely? Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, yet the enigma of the object remained unsolved. Suddenly, on October, a faint transmission crackled through the Pacific airwaves, carrying a haunting message from somewhere in the vast expanse of the ocean. All officers, including the captain, are dead, lying in chart room and bridge. Possibly whole crew dead. Repeat, possibly whole crew dead.
Ho, ho, ho!
The voice, shaky and urgent, belonged to the second mate of a ship named Ourang Medan, a Dutch vessel sailing between the port of Amsterdam and the Indonesian island of Sumatra. The intended recipient of this chilling message was the nearby ship captain, but fate intervened, directing it to the radio room of the U.S. Naval Base at Manila instead. Moments later, as if to emphasize the urgency of the situation, another message came through. It was just 2 words, "I die," and then silence.
Ho, ho, ho!
There was no follow-up, no coordinates, no indication of the ship's whereabouts. Only static filled the air where seconds ago a desperate plea for help had echoed. Captain Robert H.G. Wyckoff of the U.S. military seaplane transport, who received the mysterious calls, wasted no time. He acted quickly, immediately charting a course to the general location from which the distress call had seemingly originated.
Ho, ho, ho!
As the seaplane raced towards the possible coordinates of the Ourang Medan, an eerie blanket of fog enveloped the waters below, shrouding everything in an unsettling mist. As the seaplane approached what could be the Ourang Medan's last known position, the dense fog offered little visibility, hampering the search efforts. Yet Wyckoff pressed on, determined to uncover whatever mystery lay hidden in the thick fog. And there it was, in the midst of the fog, almost as if emerging from the mist itself, was the SS Ourang Medan.
Ho, ho, ho!
However, when Wyckoff and his crew got closer, they realized the ship wasn't moving. Its engines were silent, its sails lifeless against the windless sky. As they drew closer, a sense of foreboding settled over them. What could this stillness mean? Why was the Ourang Medan anchored without movement? Wyckoff knew that ships don't simply stop in the middle of the sea. Something was amiss, and he had a growing sense of the gravity of the situation. With a mix of anticipation and dread, Wyckoff and his crew prepared to land on the SS Ourang Medan's deck.
Ho, ho, ho!
But as they drew nearer, an even more horrifying sight greeted them. Dozens of crew members were sprawled across the deck, slumped against the mast, lying motionless in the rigging. Each figure seemed frozen in place, as though in the throes of some unseen terror. What had happened to the crew of the Ourang Medan? Were they victims of a sudden illness? Had a storm struck without warning? Or was there a more sinister cause behind their lifeless forms? Wicker, his heart sinking, knew he had to act fast.
Ho, ho, ho!
He radioed for assistance and ordered his men to board the deserted ship and commence a search to see if anyone was alive. What they discovered on board the SS Ourang Medan would haunt them for the rest of their lives. As the rescuers cautiously stepped onto the deck of the SS Ourang Medan, they were met with a scene straight out of a nightmare. Every crew member they encountered was dead. Their bodies were contorted in strange angles, eyes wide with terror, mouths open as if screaming into the void.
Ho, ho, ho!
It was as if every soul on board had perished instantaneously, locked in a tableau of unending fear. The rescuers continued their grim search, venturing deeper into the ship's belly. They found the sailors in the same state, frozen in postures of panic, their lifelike forms slumped over the railings or clutched onto the masts, as if trying to flee some unseen danger. The ship's cook was found in the galley with a spoon in one hand and a half-eaten meal on the table before him, as though he had been interrupted in the middle of his duty.
Ho, ho, ho!
Even the ship's dog was found dead, teeth bared in a silent scream. Amongst the dead, the rescuers found a number of personal belongings, letters, wallets, even a deck of playing cards strewn across the floor as if a game had been abandoned in haste. But perhaps the most disturbing discovery was made on the bridge. The captain's body was slumped in his chair, staring blankly ahead. In his hand was a half-written logbook entry detailing the events of that fateful day, ending abruptly in the middle of a sentence.
Ho, ho, ho!
A sense of foreboding hung heavy in the air as Wyckoff examined the captain's body. Unlike the other crew members who had been found in various parts of the ship, the captain's body was remarkably intact. There were no visible signs of struggle, no injuries, no indication of what might have caused his death, let alone the deaths of the entire crew. It was as if the ship's crew had vanished into thin air, leaving behind a haunting spectacle of terror frozen in time.
Ho, ho, ho!
Yet amidst the horror, questions swirled. How had so many people died without a trace of a struggle? Where were the lifeboats? Why was the ship anchored in the middle of the sea? And what had driven the surviving crew member to such despair that he ended his own life before help could arrive? The mysteries deepened, shrouding the incident in an enigma that defied rational explanation. Struggling to comprehend the ghastly scene before him, Wyckoff decided to take a chance. He looked up the Ourang Medan in the ship's logbook, hoping to find answers.
Ho, ho, ho!
In the pages that followed, he found no record of the crew or passengers. It was as if the ship had materialized out of nowhere. Wyckoff's suspicions grew. Was this ship really where the distress call had come from? Hadn't a crime been committed here? Had the murder weapon been destroyed along with the ship? Wyckoff began to suspect that this case of mass murder was intricately connected to the disappearance of the Ourang Medan's crew and the reason behind the cryptic distress call. But his investigation was cut short by a sudden explosion from the lower deck.
Ho, ho, ho!
Flames erupted, forcing the rescuers to abandon their investigation and flee for safety. As the fire raged, the Ourang Medan lurched violently, plunging into the sea. The haunting cries of the dying echoed over the water as the ship cracked and split in two. One half of the ship, still ablaze, drifted further into the ocean, disappearing into the horizon. The other half, however, remained anchored to the spot where it had been found, a smoldering testament to the tragedy that had unfolded there.
Ho, ho, ho!
With the Ourang Medan now reduced to a smoldering wreck, the mystery deepened. The rescuers watched helplessly as the vessel, along with its secrets, slipped beneath the waves. The fire had destroyed any hope of finding answers. Any evidence of what had transpired on board the ship was now lost to the depths. Back on land, the news of the Ourang Medan's demise spread like wildfire. Newspapers carried headlines that screamed of a ghost ship, a phantom vessel that appeared and disappeared without a trace.
Ho, ho, ho!
The public was gripped by the tale, but no one could offer a solution to the riddle. As the years passed, the memory of the SS Ourang Medan faded into obscurity. The incident, which had once captivated the world, was relegated to the annals of maritime history, a footnote in a tale that had begun with a bang and ended in a blaze. The only remnant of this eerie episode was a single transmission echoing across the decades, serving as a chilling reminder of a mystery that had never been solved. To this day, no official records confirm the ship's existence.
Ho, ho, ho!
No nation has claimed ownership. No survivors ever came forward. All that remains is a single, unanswered transmission and a legend that still haunts the sea. Now click the video on screen to learn about the Dyatlov Pass incident, or click another video to watch something else.
Ho, ho, ho!